The Inquisitor was strange, mildly put. She rarely smiled, rarely spoke, and when she did, they were small and blunt words for quick answers. "How do you fare, Inquisitor?" "Decently." "Did you enjoy the lunch, Herald?" "No." "What did you do today, my lady?" "Nothing." Most of the Inquisition feared her due to this. She wasn't, as most would say, normal or right in the head. Truth was, she was just unsure of how else to act. She knew little of happiness as a child, so the need to spread joy was a grey area for her. Most in a circle had attempted to make her more comfortable around them, but she usually doesn't understand their gestures. Bull had tried flirting, Blackwell tried talking about her interests, Sarah tried pranks, Cassandra didn't risk saying anything, Varric tried jokes, Vivienne tried pampering her, Dorian just read to her, Solus merely studied her, but nothing worked or was found out about her. In the end, the only one who hadn't tried anything was Cole, but Cole had already tried reading her emotions but found nothing. She did hold a strange curiosity for Cole, however, ever since finding out he was a spirit. She'd poke and prod at Cole, and he would let her, thinking it would help her understand. But she couldn't. "You are strange, Inquisitor," Cole said, watching her braid her hair only to undo it and do it again. "Normal," she would mutter. Cole searched for a sign, anything to help him understand her, but he couldn't. After becoming more human, he tried to use his words to understand her. She was less blunt with him, took care of what she said. "What do you fear?" Cole asked, his floppy hat covering his face. He could still see her slender fingertips stop mid-braid and gently setting them on the table. "Fear," she whispered gently, considering the thought. "Forgotten." "You forget fear?" Cole had started considering she was a tranquil. It would explain her lack of social skills. Being forgotten. To forget. Cole brought his hat up, staring into her cocoa brown eyes as she suddenly seemed so much more distant than normal. "It hurts." Her brow furrowed, but she dare not meet Cole's eyes. "Do you fear me? Fear my abilities?" he asked, but she didn't respond at first. Only blinked. Unsure." She pushed her chair back to rest her head more comfortably on the table. "Always forgotten. They forget. I don't." The loneliness. Cole noticed how much she sounded like him when describing how someone feels. Frantic words quickly spoken, with no consideration to the listener. She was vulnerable now. Maybe if he focused, he'd hear her. He could help her. "I can hear my heart beating whenever he's around. Why must I want him to help me? I don't want any help. I shall suffer in my silence." It was unusual for Cole to hear full sentences from the woman. Her words were elegantly spoken, but does not compare to her voice now. Soft and gentle. The voice in her head almost sounds snobby and uncaring, like the nobles in Val Royeaux. "You don't have to suffer in silence," Cole told her, taking her hand gently in his own. She didn't seem shocked at all by what he said, her head raising from the table and her eyes trained on his fingers in mild confusion. After a few minutes of heavy hesitation, she placed her free hand on his. Her hands were cold, freezing even. It was unusual to Cole. After all, it was warm in the tavern, and everyone seemed rather comfortable. Warm. She rose his hand to his face, nuzzling gently into them. A dark blush sprouted on both their features as she gave a small smile, directed towards Cole. It was the first smile he had ever seen her give. It was beautiful. He wasn't sure if what she was doing was a normal thing, but he was fairly sure he'd only seen couples doing something similar. He wasn't complaining. He loved the feeling. Loved her hands, her face, her beautifully soft skin, everything. But it was so different, inhuman almost. She, on the other hand, wasn't exactly sure what she was doing. It just felt so right for him to hold her that way, like she was a pearl and him a clam, holding tightly onto his treasure. She couldn't help but smile when his lips parted, but no words came out, and that adorably dark blush spread across his usually paler than pale skin. It was different for them both, but by Andraste did they love it. "You're beautiful," he whispered gently, pulling his face closer to her, his breath tickling her nose ever so gently. Thank you." She was unsure of what to say. Instead, her eyes flickered to his lips, half-closed eyes silently begging for him to close the gap. And he did. Also, she would smile.